Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com/UCSS. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And we are thrilled to welcome in Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com. And Mary Kay, I want to ask the first question today. Bull, I'm sorry to steal your thunder, but we got to ask this one in particular.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb on pace to play. Is all indications still pointing to Nick Chubb making his season debut against the Bengals this Sunday at home?
Yes, absolutely. Nick Chubb is going to play in this game, and I think it'll be a great way to start out this game with him running out of that tunnel and giving everyone a lift. Hopefully that won't be the high point of the day for the Browns and for Browns fans, but he will give this team a lift, and I think, I see them going back towards more of the traditional running game, Kevin Stefanski type of offense, and he might be a big part of this game plan. He looks really good in practice. The defenders have been raving about him, and he's not going to save the season necessarily, but I do think he can provide a tremendous boost on Sunday.
Yeah, that will be great. Personally, I think an extra boost would be starting Jameis Winston, but obviously that's not going to happen. Mary Kay, you asked Kevin specifically yesterday, and kudos to you for asking it. Is Jimmy Haslam essentially pulling your strings when it comes to Deshaun Watson? What did you think of his answer?
Well, he said, and I do see this happening all the time, he said that he talks these things over with Andrew Berry, he talks them over with Jimmy Haslam, but he has jurisdiction over football decisions. And I believe him. I really do believe him. I know nobody else really seems to believe him on this, but I don't think you're going to take the 2-time NFL Coach of the Year and force him to play a quarterback that he doesn't want to play. Why would you do that? If Kevin Stefanski thought that Jameis Winston would give them a better chance to win the football game and that they could fix the majority of the problems by starting Jameis Winston, then I really do believe in my heart of hearts that Kevin would do that. I think that he recognizes the problems are systemic. I mean, one of the big things going on this offense right now, the new system is an abject failure. It's not working at all, okay? It's just not. It's time to go back to things that they know that they can do well, run the football, go jumbo if you have to. There are a lot of things going wrong with this offense, but I don't think that Kevin believes that Jameis Winston is the fix. And I tend to agree with him right now. I have a lot of reasons why I don't think that they should bench Deshaun. We've gone over some of these before. Another one of those major reasons is because I think you have to know what you have in him. You can't get to the end point of this season, 3, 4, 5 games left, and have no idea what you're doing at quarterback next year. You need to know. I don't think he's ready for the scrap heap just yet.
I tend to agree with you because the season's over. There's no you can't save this season at all. The Browns are not making the playoffs, so why not just play Deshaun and see what he has? If somehow you find lightning in a bottle, he develops confidence overnight, whatever, great. Okay. If not, you got the #1 pick in the draft.
That's true.
So there's that. But with that being said, Mary Kay, you said the offense needs to go back to what they did when Chubb was healthy in basically last year's offense when you had like 9 quarterbacks. My question is, can Deshaun effectively run that offense?
I think he can run it better than whatever the heck is going on out there right now. It's so bad right now that, again, I don't know that anybody can run it. Because let's just take the choice routes, for instance, okay? The choice routes are, you have to be on the same page, your quarterback and your receiver. Sometimes when we look out there and we see that the ball is way off, these could possibly be some of those choice routes where they're not on the same page with those. So those have to go for now. Those are not working. They didn't have enough time to rep it. They only practiced together once in training camp that I could see the whole entire offense. And they're not ready to run these kind of routes and this kind of an offense. Even the RPO stuff, none of it is working. So they need to go back to things that they know that they can do well enough to move the football and maybe win some football games. That's what they have to do. And they have to find out, and I do believe this, they have to figure out, is their $230 million man completely ready to be thrown overboard, chucked onto the scrap heap, and you're saying, we're done, we're finished, we're going to go out, and we're going to draft a quarterback, we're going to sign one we're going to eat all this money. You have to be ready to make that decision. I don't think Jameis is going to be able to come in here and go 8-3 and get the Browns into the playoffs.
Mary Kay, let's say if the season is over, like
There's no if.
like
They're not going 10-2.
can I ask the question, please?
Well, yeah, if you phrase it different.
Listen.
10-1.
Let's say if the season is over and it's a disaster. Say the Browns don't win another game. Can I stop? Don't make me laugh.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you think there's fear that guys like Myles Garrett or Denzel Ward may want out or demand a trade because they don't want to go through another rebuild or a rookie quarterback and all of those things?
They might. I mean, you never know what might happen in that scenario. Some of those guys might want to go somewhere where they can win. I think there will be plenty of change. If they get to November 5th and they've lost a number of games between now and then, more games, and they are absolutely 100% out of it, have no chance, then I think you will see Amari Cooper get traded. I think you will see maybe some other guys get traded because they're going to need to restock. But what they need to know is, do they need to go out and get another quarterback? They might be close to answering that already, but you want to be sure. And here's another reason why. At one point, Sam Darnold was ready for the scrap heap. Baker Mayfield was ready for the scrap heap. Jared Goff was ready for the scrap heap. Geno Smith was ready for the scrap heap. And somehow all of these guys have found a way back to playing winning football. Now, can that happen for Deshaun Watson? We don't know that yet. Maybe he is stick a fork in him finished. Maybe he is that. But I don't think they're there yet because I see so many things going wrong with this offense right now, including the fact that their number one receiver has been at times more of a liability than an asset to this football team. It's puzzling and it's weird, but he hasn't been what the Browns need him to be to this point. And they also haven't had David Njoku. If you take away Mike Evans and Chris Godwin from Baker Mayfield right now, he's not the Baker Mayfield that has thrown 15 touchdown passes and only 5 interceptions. You need guys making plays for you. And so that needs to help. The other thing I just wanted to bring up real quick is the fact that in the second half of that football game, in Philadelphia, Deshaun did what you want your starting quarterback to do. He went 11 of 12 for 122 yards, got the team down to the 3 with a chance to win the game. That's what you want your quarterback to do, even if he totally sucked in the first half of the game. And he did. We saw that he missed open guys. We saw all those things. We all saw those things. But when push comes to shove, you want your quarterback to put you in position to win the football game at the end. He did that, but there are so many problems right now on this offensive line, on this court, and with this scheme. It's just really, really hard to know. But yes, I do think that you'll see a lot of change if they keep losing.
Mary Kay, respectfully, I understand what you're saying about, like, there are other problems. I get it. There are other problems. There's no doubt. It's not all on Deshaun. But there are other teams with other problems that are not, and their quarterbacks are not playing this bad. Like, if you look at some of the analytics, statistics on him, he's with the all-time, like, he's with the all-time worst quarterbacks, like Jamarcus Russell. And, like, I get it. But 3 years ago, Joe Burrow had the worst offensive line in the league and went to the Super Bowl. The talent around him, yes, it's declined on the offensive line. But I know Amari Cooper's not playing great either, but he's been here. Like Jerry Jeudy, I don't love Jerry Jeudy, but he's a serviceable NFL wide receiver. I don't buy this. He has no talent around him. And you're right when you compare, like those other quarterbacks that you mentioned, Baker, Darnold, Geno, and Jared Goff. I think, to me, Jared Goff's a little different because he didn't play poorly for as long as those other guys did, or Deshaun has. But those other 3 guys, yeah, you're right. They all played poorly for a while. But the difference is those guys all had to go somewhere else to turn it around. They didn't turn it around where they were. So, like, maybe Deshaun can turn it around, although I doubt it because I think if the Browns move on from him, I don't know that anybody else is going to ever sign him again. But those guys all had to go somewhere else to turn it around. So,
yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen here. I really don't know if it's going to happen here. The point about Joe Burrow, I will say, at that time, he had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. So when you have a supporting cast like that, it's a lot easier to throw touchdown passes and to move the football. And right now, I don't think Deshaun has the supporting cast. Now, some of it's his fault. I would give 25% to Deshaun, 25% of it to offensive line woes, 25% of it to maybe play calling, and 25% of it to, well, I've got to give some of it to players not making plays the way that they need them to. They lead the league in drop passes. Amari has 9 drop passes this season. You need guys out there. I mean, we can't, go grab Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and throw them in this offense and see if it would help. But I think that if the Browns had more guys making some plays, that would help, or getting open, that would help, especially your number one receiver, who I think we can all agree has not been himself. I'm not absolving Deshaun of blame from this season. He's done a lot of poor things. He's pressing. He's trying too hard. He's trying to make things happen when they're not there. He's running into sacks. Some of these sacks are his fault. We know that. A lot of them are probably his fault. But I don't think the fix is in trying Jameis Winston. I think what they need to do is see if you can salvage anything out of Deshaun Watson, even for purposes of maybe trading him to another team if you had to. And of course, you're going to have to eat the contract. But if you want to get him out, you have to show somebody that maybe he does still have some value or some merit.
Mary Kay, I want to ask you about the defensive side of the ball, particularly in the secondary, because it's, to see where they were last year, to see where they're at now, what have you seen that's just completely gone wrong, with Martin Emerson, Denzel's not being able to stay on the field, and G. New, giving up on a play at the end, to Devontae Smith. What has gone wrong with these guys?
Well, let's start with Martin Emerson Jr. I really believed that Martin was going to step up into a Pro Bowl caliber season this year and really just be kind of lights out. And that hasn't happened yet. He really hasn't been himself. And then Denzel has been injured. That hasn't helped. Miles is off to a great start. JOK is off to a great start. They need more pressure up front. They need more guys giving a spark and making those plays. But maybe they need to play a little bit differently in the back end. Maybe you can't be exposing all of these guys to so much man coverage right now. Maybe you need to dial that back and mix in a little bit more zone, because these guys are getting exposed and teams are going to continue to go after them. Now, Denzel, he had a hamstring injury this game, so you can't necessarily throw him out there on A.J. Brown for every single sprint downfield, because that's probably not going to work for you. So you have to use Martin in some of those situations, and you have to use Greg in some of those situations. But maybe you have to go zone. They were without their 3 top safeties in this game too. So that's another thing. They just haven't had the manpower back there. If they get some of these guys back healthy, they should be better, but I think they need to tweak the scheme some.
Mary Kay, thanks. We appreciate the time as always. It's going to be fascinating to see how things go from here. This week's interesting because the Bengals, until last week, had played very poor defensively and very well offensively. This past week against the Giants, it was the opposite. The offense didn't play well. The defense did play well. And we know that Kevin Stefanski's had great success against the Bengals and against Joe Burrow. We'll see how it plays itself out. It's going to be a fascinating game.
It really will be.
Yeah. Thanks, Mary Kay. We'll talk to you next week.